Peace fam. Today we're going to show you how to make a good tasting hemp frosty. Now hemp has 18 of the 20 amino acids that appear in the genetic code or the human genetic code that human tissue is structured from, including all 9 essential amino acids that the body does not synthesize on its own. It is a complete protein food source. Each 28-gram serving has 14 grams of protein and a whopping 9 grams of fiber per serving. Hemp also has omega-3 and 6 fatty acids, which is rare in a protein source. It's notably high in magnesium, potassium, and phosphorus, and it's very high in vitamin D as well. Kale is also high in potassium. It has 6 B vitamins and 3 grams of fiber in only 4 ounces of it. So this smoothie should erase all notions that only strictly solid foods yield adequate fiber. Banana is famous for potassium, but actually has only a baseline amount, gram for gram. It does have vitamin B6 and manganese, which are actually the powerhouse amounts in bananas. We use them in a smoothie to smooth out and sweeten the mix. Kiwi fruit is the actual powerhouse when it comes to vitamin C, with up to 100 grams of the most bioavailable vitamin C you can get, which is actually more than an orange will give. The high C content blunts and diffuses the plant taste of the broccoli and the kale. Broccoli is your powerhouse health component. The constituent in this plant, one called sulforaphane, inhibit carcinogenic activity and cellular mutation in the body. And we have our coconut water as well, an excellent electrolyte balancing along with the minerals, amino acids, and trace vitamins. Always steam your vegetables prior to freezing them for your shake mixes. Hemp powder is granularized hemp seeds, so the grainy plant taste kind of keeps people away from its benefits. But we're going to fix that with this mix. Okay, so now we get to our ingredients. We have our frozen banana. As you can see, I cut my bananas in half just to keep my ratio easily accessible. We have our kale, frozen kale. We have our frozen kiwi, and I cut the kiwis in 4s. All right. So, or a quarter of the kiwi, I should say. I guess that would sound more appropriate. And we have our broccoli. All right, and I have my broccolis, of course, chopped into large fiorettes. And of course, we have our organic hemp protein. All right, this is the essence of the shake. This is where you get your protein, of course, and a lot of other vitamins and minerals. All right, and we have our stevia, organic stevia. Don't necessarily have to go organic. Of course, it's best to do so. All right. We have our coconut water, which is going to give us some additional aminos, electrolytes, of course. Let's mix these together. Okay, so now we're going to get to the blending of our ingredients. Now, I want to say something before we start. Kiwi is very dense, and also kiwis have pits at the bottom that you definitely have to get out before you freeze it, because if you put the kiwi in the blender with that little pit, unless your blender is commercial grade, it will definitely not totally chop that pit up, and you'll end up with a fine piece of which seems like bark in your shake. All right. However, before you do any blending with kiwi or broccoli for that matter, okay, understand this: these fruits and vegetables have to be done in preferably a tower blade blender or a 6-blade blender that has what they call total chopping or total crushing technology, which is basically a fancy way of saying that these fruits and vegetables that have a tendency to have bits and pieces that go unblended in a standard blender, you won't experience that. It will be totally crushed or totally chopped to where everything's a smooth, even consistency. All right, and that's very important. So you need to have a blender. Those standard bottom blade blenders, the ones with the blades at the bottom, they won't really do for these. You have to have something that, like this is a 6-blade tower blender, or something where the blenders extend very far from the bottom and they extract the minerals. All right, so you have to basically have a very good blender in order to have these ingredients, or have these smoothies come out right, nice and smooth, with no bits and pieces of stem or stalk in them. All right, so let's get to it. We'll add the ingredients. Okay, so we're going to add our ingredients. I'm going to start off. Now, as you can see, I already have my scoop of hemp protein in there. Each scoop, the scoop comes in the product itself already. And each scoop is equivalent to 14 grams of protein, 4 carbs, 7 grams of fiber. Hemp has a lot of fiber, so that's something that you'll find rare in a protein source, that much fiber. Okay, so I add my 8 ounces of coconut water. All right. My heaping tablespoon of hemp. I'm sorry, stevia. All right. My quartered kiwi. My banana half. My broccoli. And my kale. Now these shakes, I actually like to add a higher ratio of vegetables as opposed to fruit. The banana, the coconut water, and the stevia really provide a smooth and sweet taste that's powerful enough to override the broccoli, as long as you steam the broccoli, as we talked about earlier, and the kale. As long as you steam them to take the sting off the bitterness, the coconut water, the banana, and the stevia will be enough to give you a smooth and warm, slightly sweet taste. It will definitely not taste like wood or bark, that's bitter vegetable taste. All right. Now, if you need to add a pinch of cane sugar, or maybe maple syrup, or agave, or whatever, depending on what your eating habits are, feel free to do that. Try to minimize it as much as possible, because sugar is it's something you always want to monitor in your intake. All right. So to finish this off, of course, we're going to add 3 to 4 cubes of ice, just to make sure we end up with a hemp frosty, and an additional 4 ounces of water. And we're going to let it rip. All right. One thing I like about these blenders is that they're very easy to clean, very easy to assemble and disassemble. All right. And as we can see, our ingredients yield us just a little over 10 ounces. This is a 10-ounce glass. So yeah, about 15 ounces, which is a pretty good sized frosty. All right. And there you have it.